I started performing when I was about 11 years old. I got together with a bunch of kids in the neighborhood. I'm from Detroit originally, and big focus at that time, especially where I lived, was the rock scene. I grew up in a place where there really wasn't much else to do but music or your neighbor's daughter. Anyway, I found my way over to a basement where a group of kids had put a band together, and I wanted to be a guitar player, but I sucked at that. And I kind of got pushed in front of the microphone. And I sucked at that too, but I liked it better. Hold my calls.
Just like you said, we could Google you. I could ask you all the questions about you being with LA Guns.
Mm-hmm.
What inspires you to keep going from being in a big band, moving on to the day of being Steven Tyler?
I think it's because it's not just what I do, it's who I am. And I actually attempted to give it up for a while. I quit. I had enough, and I was living in LA at the time, and I said, you know what? It's too much bureaucracy and bullshit and red tape, and I forgot what it was I loved about the music. So, I jumped in my car and I drove back to Michigan, where I was from. Only this time I went way further north, and I was literally living, in the woods on a 500-acre spread, and I was cracking carrots and feeding deer out my back window in wintertime. And while I was there, long story short, I met this guy named Kenny Olson, who was a guitar player, and Kenny and I formed a band called Pack of Wolves. Kenny turned out to be Kid Rock's lead guitar player. So even moving to the edge of the planet, trying to get away from what it is I do, I found myself doing it. And I woke up one morning and I was like, I'm living in Michigan. What am I doing with my life? And I slowly but surely made my way back to California and, got back into the scene. I missed it, but it served its purpose because it reminded me what it was I loved about what I do, and that I don't live without it. You know what I mean? It's like breathing. So I think that's probably the most honest answer I can give you.
So how did you get picked up?
Where were we?
I think we were going.
Who's talking?
Where am I?
So you started moving your way out to LA.
Right.
Okay, when you got to LA, where did you go from there, and how did you get to where you're at today with Legends?
When I first moved to LA, I was in Michigan, and I was in a band called Trix Banshee, and we were like an A-circuit band, which means we were a cover band. We were doing all the modern and popular rock music of the day, plus all the old school stuff. And we go from bar to bar, and we spend a week in one bar doing 4 sets a night, 6 nights a week. And then we go to another bar doing 4 sets a night, 6 nights a week. And we traveled around doing that. And I remember we were on hiatus, and this guy showed up. I was hanging out with some of the guys in my band in this place called the Silver Dollar Saloon in Lansing. That's northern Michigan. And this guy showed up, and I recognized him, but I barely knew him. And it turned out that he was the roommate of a guitar player that I had a short jaunt with up in that area. And he approached me and he said, look, man, he goes, I'm living in LA now, because I hadn't seen the guy in like a year. I'm living in LA now. I've got this great band. We're being offered a deal. He goes, the only problem is, they said, we need a different singer. He goes, if you're willing to leave immediately, I'll pay for your flight, I'll put you up, and I'll give you a job until we get the band settled in and roll. And, true to form, I had my band, and my plan was at some point I was going to move my whole band out to LA, take our shot. So I told the guy no. I said, well, I really appreciate your thinking of me, but I can't do this. Like 2 months later, my band breaks up, of course. So I called the guy up and I said, are you still looking for a singer? He said, no, man, the whole thing fell apart. I said, oh, it's a shame. I said, because, so did my band, and I was thinking maybe we could do something. He said, well, let me talk to my roommate. I live with this guy. He's a guitar player, and we were talking about doing something. So I got on the phone with the roommate, and the guy's like, well, send us a package and this and that. I said, okay, cool, but I said, here's the deal. I said, if I come, I'm bringing my guitar player with me because we're kind of a team. And he said, all right, well, send us something and we'll see. So I did. I sent them out a package, and they called me like a week later, and they're like, how soon can you be here? So we pretty much sold everything we had, which wasn't much, and we bought an old GMC van. It was like rusted out through the floorboards, and we lost our brakes in the mountain. It was wintertime, and we almost skid to our death. But that was how the adventure started, and we moved to LA. Actually, it was Orange County at the time. We rolled into OC, and the van died. We called the guy on the phone. We're at a Pizza Hut, and they're like, the number's been disconnected. We're like, oh man, what are we gonna do? So we had an address, and we made our way to this address, and we're sitting there waiting, and this guy shows up, big Mexican dude. And when I say big, I'm talking 350 pounds. The guy shows up, and we're talking, and through this conversation I realized this guy that we're supposed to meet lives here. So it was something else. There was miscommunication. I had a wrong number. I don't remember what it was. So the guy shows up, and we all go upstairs, and we're sitting around, and my buddy, this guy that I had met that asked me to do this gig thing originally, shows up, and we're all sitting around the couch, and we're talking about putting the band together. And I said, well, we're going to need a drummer. And this guitar player, his name's Tom, turns and he looks at me. He goes, oh, but this is the guy. This is my best. This is Alex, the big guy. This is the early 80s, I'm like, the guy left, and I looked at him and I said, we're firing the drummer, right? This is the beginning of my relationship with my band when I moved out to LA. And it turns out that this guy was his best friend in the whole world. So, I basically fired his best friend the moment I walked into the situation. Very A-type personality. But it's interesting because the guitar player, his name was Tom Mathers, that's when we formed Cherry Street. It was him and my guitar player, Taz. We went through a revolving cast of other guys. But Tom went on to be the owner and president of Paris Records, who you may be familiar with. And we started that label while I was in Cherry Street, because nobody else would pick the band up until we'd proven sales. And after we'd done a considerable amount of touring, we were doing our own press in Rip Magazine, Metal Edge, Screamer, BAM, selling out every place, up until I think it was Motley Crue did a photo shoot at the Whiskey. The band held the attendance record. They actually shut down the Sunset Strip one night we were playing out there because we had so many people out there. Yeah, a lot of people, Cherry Street was kind of an underground band. I don't know that I'd say we were a great band, but we were intense, man. We loved what we did. And
that's everything in art.
Oh, man. Extreme physical showmanship. It's like if I didn't bleed, it wasn't a good show.
Oh, yeah.
We were that kind of band, and we put it all out there. But we eventually got picked up by JRS BMG. By the time that happened, the whole rock scene was revolving and heading towards the Seattle thing, and that pretty much, we all know what happened there.
Yeah, to rock and roll down almost.
Yeah. But that's the basic story of how I ended up in LA. Actually ended up moving to Vegas, and Jimmy and I put together the Jimmy Crespo project. That's a nutshell scenario.
Right.
But while I was doing the Crespo project, I had this idea. I said, there's a show called Legends out here. What if we did like Legends of Rock? So I brought the idea to them, and they wanted to see the guys I had, because I have this bullpen of amazing guys that are impersonators that do different, artists. Robert Plant, Lenny Kravitz, Kid Rock, and they were interested in seeing it. So I brought some of these people down, and everybody auditioned, and they asked me to stay afterwards. And we talked for a while, and they said, you know what, we like the concept, but we're not ready for the show. But a couple days later, I got the call, and they said, how do you feel about doing it? We want to give you a shot, putting you in Vegas. And I said, sure, as long as it doesn't interfere with my band. That was a year and a half ago, and I've been doing Legends in concert ever since. And it's been a fantastic experience, man. It's been amazing, so.
That's good.
Yeah. That's how I ended up here.
No, that's perfect. I know it's time for your show tonight, so you probably need to leave us, but we really appreciate you talking to us tonight.
Oh, it's my pleasure, man.
What's your plans?
For the future?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, oh man. I'm going to continue doing what I love to do. You know, and to do this, sometimes you do what you have to do to do what you love to do. But I believe if you stay true and focused, the money will come, you know, in a way will present itself. But I've got ideas, you know. I've got a record in my pocket, and I've got some really close friends that I plan on working this out with. You know, some of the people you guys know, but I don't feel like I'm at liberty to talk about it right now. I've had conversations with some of the Bang Tango guys. Kyle and I were in Jimmy Crespo project together. And Mark Knight, Kyle and I hooked up, and we talked about doing a new tango record. Then all this happened, and all our schedules are conflicting, so I don't know if that'll ever come to pass or not, but you know, they're cool guys, and it's something I would love to do if we ever find the free time. But there'll be something else, you know, sooner than later. I've been working on a book. I just spent 6 months on a cruise ship doing Norwegian epic as Tyler, and I actually started writing a book, so at some point that's going to come out, and that'll break up some marriages, for sure. But you know what I mean? Tell the truth.
Yeah, that's good.
You know, it's cool. I'm open. You know, I'll let tomorrow take care of itself. I'm just going to keep on keeping on.
Thank you, man.
You're welcome, brother.